Hello everyone, this is Jay Merlon at UNIFI Labs. Today I'm going to walk you through our latest addition to our suite of solutions which helps you better manage your BIM data, our API offerings. So first of all, I realize that the term API might be new to some of you, and let's talk about what is an API. Well, API stands for Application Programming Interface, and said differently, it really is just a way to interact with another application, or even the data that that application might provide, all through programming. So think about all of those add-ins that you might use in Revit. Well, those are all built on top of the Revit API, and even Dynamo uses the Revit API to interact with those models. And APIs are valuable because they let you automate tasks and manage data through any custom software or scripts that you might build. So with all that being said, we decided the next step in enabling our customers to better manage their BIM data is to launch our own set of APIs, which lets you review and manage BIM data programmatically. So earlier this year, we launched our Project Analytics API, which gives our users the ability to manage their projects and view Revit model data down to the parameter level per sync. And today, what we're going to talk about is the Content Management API, which we just launched this month. And it lets you review the content of your libraries in the cloud, and even lets you modify Revit family parameters, again, in the cloud programmatically. So first what we'll do is we'll take a look at some of the UNIFI API documentation that's available on apidocs.unifilabs.com. So here we've got some endpoints here documented. We're using some basic authentication to allow you to log in and generate an access token. And that access token is really our way of validating that you are a logged in user and you have rights over managing and reviewing the data within your libraries. So here you see we've got Project Analytics API broken out. And again, today we're going to be talking about the Content Management API. So if you've ever read API documentation, it's really straightforward here. We've got example requests and example responses. So what we'll do today is just look at some of these endpoints. So here, this endpoint allows you to get all of the libraries within your account. The search endpoint will allow you to search through your libraries by using keywords and any specific libraries you'd like to search through. Very similar to the front end of your UNIFI application, except you're doing this programmatically through a REST API. Now let's look at the batch endpoint. From here, you can run operations such as creating parameters within Revit families in the cloud. You can delete parameters from families. You can even replace parameters that exist in families. And here you can either set a default instance value for a parameter, or even a type parameter value using these two operations. So now I'd like to step you through some sample code that we've written. And we've basically created a UNIFI class and added a few methods to help you use the REST API using C#. So here in this method, you can see we're simply getting an access token. Again, thinking back to the documentation, you'll need this access token to make any API calls. And this method simply passes in a username and password. This method here gets all of the libraries using that access token. So any libraries that this user who logged in the method above has access to will be returned as a list. This method will allow you to get content from a specific library. So by using the method above, getting libraries, each library object will have a library ID. So this method passes that library ID in along with your access token to get all of the content within that library as a list. This method gets the data within a specific piece of content by passing in the name of the content. With all that being said, let's go ahead and look at what this application looks like when we run it. Now this application is built on WPF and C#, and it's already made a couple of API calls. So it's granted me an access token, and with that access token, I was able to list all of the libraries that I have access to. From here, I can select an individual library, and it makes an API call to list all of the content within that library. Now you can see here we've surfaced just a few data points in this grid: the title of the content, the model category, and the manufacturer parameter along with the model parameter. So with this in mind, maybe I'm a building owner that needs to validate that I have manufacturer and model number information in my libraries. And I can see here this piece of casework that is missing that information. So from here, I can choose to edit this piece of content by using our API. And by clicking the edit button, we've surfaced the family types, another API call. So we've taken the selected piece of content, made an API call to list all of the family types within that piece of content. From here, I can select the type that I want to modify the manufacturer and model parameters. And I can go ahead and type in some values here. So maybe the manufacturer name is Acme and the model name is A12. From here, I'll click Save. Now what happened now is we made a call to the API to manage those parameter values. Now as part of our API, we run everything in batches. So that's why we've built this simple batch monitor. And you'll notice that this drop-down menu is populated with two batches. One batch modifies the parameter value for manufacturer, and the other batch modifies the model parameter value. So I can select either one of these batches and click refresh. And here you can see that batch is still pending. And what that means is the operation hasn't fully executed, and we simply need to wait for that status to change to complete. So now that we've covered the sample application, one other thing to note is this sample application is open sourced on GitHub. So we were really hoping that we can build an ecosystem and a community around our API. So we've open sourced this sample application, and we welcome anyone to clone or download this repository, fork it, help us build it into something that's useful for you. And I hope this API is helpful for you and your firm, not only with automating some of the tasks programmatically, but also better integrating with your AECO tech stack. Thank you very much.